welcome to another episode of Spotlight On. I'm your community host, Sean Brown. Today, our guest is Anthony Bland, the school district's executive director for the Office of School Safety and Security. Mr. Bland spent the last 9 years working for the New Jersey Department of Education, where he served as state coordinator for the school security unit. Mr. Bland is familiar with Camden students and staff. In 2013 to 14, he supported the development of comprehensive school safety plans. It was instrumental in the effort to bring back the Safe Corridors program. Mr. Bland has also joined the crisis intervention teams and spent time in schools speaking directly with principals, teachers, and students. As always, I came up with these questions independently. Anthony, it's good to see you today.
Thank you for allowing me here today.
All right, so let's get into it with the questions. So first, could you just tell us what's your role? Who do you report to? Who reports to you? How do you fit into the organizational chart with the district?
Sure. I'm the executive director for the Office of Safety and Security, and that role is to create a safer environment. It's not just about security, but it's about creating a culture of school preparedness, which means making sure protocols are appropriate, making sure that our vision of what we do, how we are interacting with our emergency responders, but setting beliefs and norms that this will be a safe and secure environment. Our office is housed in the Division of Finance and Operations, but it also has a dotted line to the superintendent. So unique, I think, over the last 2, 3, or 4 years with the district, my position has been designated as a cabinet position. What that means is that our superintendent, Rahanafard, believes that this is important. It is committed and it follows the Camden commitment, and it also goes with promise number 1 about having safe schools and safe students.
You manage school security at the state level. What lessons do you bring from Trenton now that you're in Camden working here in the district?
I think there are a few that are important. The first one that we've really seen is at any time that there is a healthy relationship between the school district and law enforcement, that means that your response will be better, your planning will be better. We've also learned that students are a part of the safety environment that they're creating and that they're housed in. So for example, students understand that they can create a healthy environment. They also know that they are responsive for any negative or positive effects in the change that takes place. We've also seen that where parents understand that school security drills need to take place and that academic goals match those safety goals, that rigor can take place and we can aim for excellence.
So speaking of education, could you just talk a little bit about your background and how you got involved in the field of security?
Sure, absolutely. I am proud to be a graduate of Monmouth University, which is in Monmouth County. I also went to grad school at Temple University. I studied urban education because I believe education is important, but urban education brings together different drivers, such as what's taking place in the community, what is social economic status, what is it taking place looking at planning for urban environments, parents, and within that context, how does that come into school safety and security? As we were talking off camera, I believe national service programs is one way where I started, and I think other people should start about giving back. However, when we had a change in administration at state government, when Governor Corzine came in after Columbine, our state looked for someone to say, hey, how can we improve? How can we put safety first? And that was the transition that made me come into safety and security.
Okay. What will be different on the first day of school compared to previous school years?
I think there will be 2 main things that are different. The first one is we will be purposeful, looking at our school and building administrators and also our security officers of making sure we are efficient, we are effective, and we're courteous, and we're providing that type of service. And then the second one, which I think is important and many people may have heard, is that we've had a school security tech pilot program that has been taking place over the last few months, which is inclusive of Camden High and Woodrow Wilson High School. Basically, those are our larger buildings within the district. They tend to be coded as comprehensive buildings. And with that, we're going to have smaller points of egress. So as an example, those particular buildings have anywhere between 80 to 89 points of egress where you can exit in and out of the building. Now we're trying to reduce that to maybe 5 or 9 per building, which would create a safer environment, which would lead to a more sustainable and safer climate and culture within those buildings, exiting and entering the building.
So when you talk about having efficient and effective, can you just break that down and be a little bit more specific on what are your expectations of what school security is what the officers are doing at work every day in the schools?
Sure. One of the things that I think is one of the reasons I came here is that I've seen that our security officers are dedicated and they're passionate about giving back to our community. And we want to see them continue that. So we want parents to understand and see that message. We want school administrators to understand and see that message. And we want students to understand and see that message. So that means being responsive to when they're being called, making sure they are working their buildings and zones, and also understanding that they are supporting the educational environment. When we understand that you are supporting what takes place, it's kind of like an iPhone and software, right? They both have to work well together, and I believe if our security officers are efficient, effective, and courteous, it will support what our educational leaders are doing in the building.
All right. How will school culture and climate be addressed to assure that students are in a safe learning environment?
I think the first one, as we reiterated, was that our building leaders are going to create a better environment. They are being trained for a 2-week period to talk about academics, to talk about safe culture. And then furthermore, we're looking at PBIS, positive behaviors in schools, and just one item of that is making sure we're recognizing what student behaviors are and can we measure those behaviors. That, I think, will transcend what takes place over the next 6 months and 12 months in the school year. And the last thing is about letting parents know what they can expect from us and what they should expect of their students.
So you said positive behaviors in schools. Is this a philosophy? Is this a strategy? What exactly is that?
Sure, I would actually say it's a combination of both. It's something that's scientifically based, that's used across the nation. It's a program that is being implemented in Camden schools. It was in approximately three schools last year. I believe now we're going to 6 schools. But the concept of it, of understanding what students are, to monitor behaviors and what type of referral services we will be doing will change our school environment.
Who's leading the rollout of that?
That would be the whole district. It's district-wide.
Okay,
so school support will definitely be a big part, looking at our building leaders of implementing it with their teams and with their teachers.
Okay. In Camden and urban school districts throughout the country, gang affiliation is a lot of times identified as being one of the causes, at least, for violence in schools. We also know that social media plays a role in what happens in the schools. In your role, how do you address these things? The gangs, the social media, the causes of actions that can lead to violence and students fighting each other in the classroom and the hallways?
I think it's a couple of ways. One way would be making sure we communicate to our school communities, which is inclusive of teachers, staff members, and parents as well, and any sort of volunteers, of understanding that the internet is a great place. However, it also can be dangerous, right? And we have to make sure our students understand that. And that can be what I would like to do with some internet safety trainings for that cohort, that school community, to let them know, hey, when you are typing, right, think before you send, right? When you're about to send, upload, or post, understand that that's going to 34 million people as an example. It's also making sure that we are communicating with the Camden County Police Department on intelligence, whether that's soft intelligence or hard intelligence about what's taking place and what is interacting in our community during the day and out of school time. And then if possible, we're looking to work and partner with the Office of Homeland Security down in the federal government about their new project of looking at, it's called Safe School Initiative, really looking at social media and what we can assess through public domains.
So I read on the superintendent's update to the Camden Commitment about the training that's going on. Is this the training that's being referred to?
No, that's something that we have in the works. The training that I'm referring to, or that we're talking about, is that our security officers will be trained with CPR, right, so that they can respond to initial responses, whether it's looking at bloodborne pathogens, and also about how we're deploying our officers. That's one of the training methods. Our relationship with the Camden County Police Department, we're communicating where do we deploy officers. One of our new strategies is looking at the needs of a school, looking at where we can deploy our officers, looking at the ratio of officers to students, and then the last one is making sure that we have a diverse staff so that our staff can work in an elementary, middle school, or high school, and they are not just based on that particular building.
So the new Camden Metro Police Department has developed a reputation for not being always respectful or nice to people when they're confronting them or walking around in the community. How do you see the role of the security officer in a school in terms of making sure that they find the balance between being respectful but not being too overly friendly with students?
Sure. First, I will say I must be lucky. I've actually had a great relationship with the Camden County Police Department. We meet weekly to communicate what our needs are of the districts, how they can be responsive, how we can be responsive to them as well. For our security officers, I think it goes back to, we had a training with them back in June. And a part of the messaging is about being supportive of an environment and being courteous. Right? You're not a police officer, so we don't want you doing police and investigative work. That does not mean you don't communicate the ongoings in a building. You are to be respectful of students and their environments. You are to know their schedules of when they go to school, when they shouldn't be in school, and that way that will matriculate into a better environment. But in addition, it's about treating people with class and respect. And if you say, excuse me, can you take your hat off, young man, versus take your hat off, those are things that I think you'll see a shift in culture.
So as we take a step back and as the school year approaches, what advice or information do you have for people throughout the community of Camden, especially parents, of what we should look forward to in the upcoming school year?
I think there are a couple things. I think when you're looking at our office, the Office of Safety and Security, understand that we are looking at preparing, we're looking at planning, we are responding, and then we are recovering, and that is our cycle that we will continue with consistently. The second part is to understand that safety isn't just about seeing a camera and seeing locks. Safety is sometimes best when you don't see it and you don't know. It's just walking into a house or an environment and you feel that the aesthetics are well and you feel you're going to be in a great environment. And the last is, I think, as we are progressing towards excellence, and that is our aim, we would like parents and guardians to potentially volunteer, such as the Parent Ranger program. Last year, I think we talked about the Parent Ranger program within the city. Many people said this is something they wanted us to reinvigorate, and we would like to do that. So if it's filling out a parent volunteer application, denoting that you want to be a parent ranger, or hopefully we will have some flyer information coming out within the first or second week of school talking about an info session about how you can volunteer. And that particular piece of volunteering, looking at the Parent Ranger program, will reinvigorate the Safe Corridors program and make sure our kids can get to and from school successfully.
Great. Well, Anthony Bland, it was certainly a pleasure to meet you and talk to you about these things. I know we all look forward to having a great school year that includes safe schools.
I'm happy to be here. I'm ecstatic. I want to tell our students that come September 2nd, we will be happy to see you, and best of luck to all of our parents, our students, and community volunteers.
Great. And thank you, audience, for watching another episode of Spotlight On. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, you can reach us right there on the email address that you see below, or the district is also on Facebook and Twitter. And if you see me out in the community, feel free to let me know too. Thank you for another edition.